Hey Fortnite fans, today we're taking a look at another unreleased squad mode set. That's right, another unreleased squad mode set. I don't know when or if this set will ever actually show up. I don't think it's going to be showing up in stores. It seems like Walmart and Target are no longer selling Fortnite figures, so the only possibility that I can see is if this were to show up somewhere online, say Jazwares shop website or maybe Jazwares Vault. But as with all Fortnite products, I really hope this gets out and is available because it looks pretty neat. And for those of you wondering why or how I have this, I do have a friend that's over in China and he has been picking up stuff for me randomly here and there and sends them my way. And the idea is not necessarily to brag or show off, but in an attempt in a way to kind of preserve the history of the 4-inch Fortnite action figures, because there are so many out there. We've been doing this since 2018 and there are so many neat things getting made and for some odd reason are not making it out to stores. You know, in normal times, I suppose, you know, something like this would be available in the store, but it doesn't seem to be. And so I guess via video format, this is kind of like my way of attempting to preserve the Fortnite toy history. And so that's pretty cool. Okay, we'll get off that little bit for you. But that's why I do this, is because it's a preservation, because a lot of toy companies don't seem to, they're in the business of making money. They don't seem to care to preserve nearly as much. And if someone doesn't, because they might not, this stuff gets lost to, well, history. Over here on the right side, you can see there are some figure numbers, and we will start at the top. You have 211, 316, 317, 318. That is Meowscles, Eevee, Sledge, and Arctic Tac Gunner. We'll flip the box around here to the back. You can see the back. If this set were to be actually released in the store somewhere, then it should be accompanied by these figures, this cross sale down here. The solo figures of Snap, IoGuard, Zadie, Madcap, an Unvaulted the Visitor, and by the way, the Unvaulted Visitor is not a pure repack. It would actually have a different head. So if this figure ever showed up, you might consider it just for that separate head. Then there's the limited edition Gummy Fish Stick, which we've reviewed here on the channel before, and the ultra limited edition Golden Peely, which I have also reviewed here on the channel. None of these figures are actually officially released anywhere that I'm aware of. So anyway, I would say enough about that. Let's get this out. Let's get these figures out of this box and take a closer look at them. And here we have all four of them out of the box, holding their accessories, all geared up so you can look at them and see what they look like. I just love these back blings so much. These are some of my favorite back blings, I guess because it's so, I guess, Fortnite game-like. Like, there's something about them that just really screams Fortnite because it's been in the game for so long now. Now, she's a little bit difficult to stand, I will say, because, at least equipped, because of her high heels and the kind of the weight. But there is kind of like a look of all their stuff. So Meowscles will start over here on the left. He comes with his solid scratch dual harvesting tools. He's holding them two different ways because in the package, whoever packaged this packaged him holding them in two different ways. I just kind of put this stuff on him, or on the figures the way they were. He has his Feline Fun back bling back there. Otherwise, this, as you can see, is the default version. We have Eevee over here. This is, if I say this correctly, the Syndicate Couture style. And she actually has this cat on her shirt. This represents the bad luck shirt emblem. Well, I mean, the shirt emblem is bad luck. So we'll say it that way. Because you can actually style the shirt emblem. You can change the shirt emblem out several different ways in-game. But anyway, she's got her paring blade dual harvesting tools. These are really big for dual. Usually dual harvesting tools are like smaller, like Meowscles has, but these are like long javelins or spears or something. Then her back is the twin crossfire back bling right there. It's got two guns sticking out of it. And I've got things falling all over the place here. Let's see if we can get her to stand for a second on her own. Like I said, she's a little bit difficult because you can see she's got these high heels and they're very narrow. She's got very narrow legs. I understand they're trying to make it game-like, but very narrow and somewhat heavy accessories, they don't quite mix. We're gonna have to set her down for a second. My light was attempting to fall over on me, and I was holding it with my elbow. We'll set Meowscles back here. But yeah, she's a little bit difficult to stand. Once you get her standing, cross your fingers, she never falls over. But it's a very careful balancing act trying to get her to stand, especially if she's holding her gear. And we'll talk a little bit more about there. See, there we go. We got her. Let's not touch her. Then we have Sledge over here, who doesn't actually come with his back bling or his pickaxe. He comes with this general alerted floating back bling. They call it floating because it just, if you're familiar with the game, the exclamation point just kind of pops up over the character's head like a bad guy, a boss, or an NPC when they detect something is wrong. And so they have this translucent orange color to indicate, or maybe give the impression that the exclamation point is floating over the head. He also comes with this tactical, tactical assault rifle here. I'm not sure if there's a wrap on here or not. It just looks like a gray gun to me. So he doesn't come with any of his own gear, which is a little bit disappointing. We are going to move her back a little bit. Cross our fingers she doesn't fall over. Then we have Arctic Tac Gunner, and this is the third gunner that has been not released. I guess we've had 2 gunners before, but this will be the third one if it ever shows up. He has the suspected back bling, and that's the big yellow question mark above his head. And again, it's a floating back bling, and so in-game when an NPC or a boss or a character that suspects that somebody's nearby or suspects something weird is going on, the question mark will pop up to kind of give the player an indications that they might be noticing you. And so they have this very light colored thing, translucent piece, to help make it look like it's actually floating. Funny, every time I rotate him, it looks like he's bending more and more into a weird position. He has a tactical shotgun, and it's got a really cool looking wrap. I have to admit, I am not familiar with this wrap. I tried looking it up, but I couldn't find it. It's this kind of like a light green along the bottom with a dark green and silver checkered pattern along the top. But it's a cool looking accessory there. He does not come with his dual harvesting tools like the others do, but I brought these in. I was going to see if by any chance these would fit on this figure when we get more in depth with the figure. And he also doesn't come with a back bling. It's funny that the IO characters over here don't come with their pickaxes or back blings, but the Syndicate characters over here do. Now, it's really interesting to me, and before we get in and look at the figures in very close detail, it's interesting to me that they included Sledge. Did I say Sludge? No, Sledge in this set, and not an IO guard. It's almost the same build. But if this is an IO set, you'd think an IO guard would be part of it if they're considering him a troop builder. I don't know, maybe they don't consider him a troop builder. But I was thinking he kind of looked at troop builder-ish, the way they have him presented in here. But anyway, let's actually look a lot closer at each individual figure. So we'll begin with Meowscles figure 211, and well, he's just kind of Meowscles. We've seen this figure before, kind of. We received this default version in a solo card late summer of 2023, but we also had a Meowscles agent room, and these are the ghost and shadow versions. So as you can see, I mean, we've had this figure before. He's just now repainted in his default colors, which I think is probably the most popular. I know I like this one more than the others, but there's just a quick peek at the agent room Meowscles figures. Now, if we just got the gold version, I think we have all the Meowscles. So his tail is not an articulated point. It doesn't seem to be on a hinge or a ball joint. It's just there. So you can't really have him sit. Otherwise, that tail is sticking down. He could do the splits kind of about halfway. He has the rotation, double pin knee, and a hinge. Let's see, I think it's just a hinge and a rotation. No, a hinge and a pivot down there. I don't think there's a rotation at the ankle. Has pretty good torso movement. He does have these straps that stretch over. They're connected to his waist, where these holsters are, but it doesn't really hinder the motion all that much. I mean, he doesn't have a lot of motion to begin with. His arms can go down about that far, and they kind of spread out from the body a little bit. He does have almost a 90 degree at the elbow there, rotation, and same as shoulder is the hinge and rotation, and same with the wrist, hinge and rotation. I am a little bit disappointed. Let me bring in someone like Gunner for a second. I am a little bit disappointed that Meowscles is so small. He's always been a large character in game, and they made Gunner bigger than Meowscles. And I know Gunner is a newer design figure, and Meowscles, this body was actually designed years ago, so it's not like they could just go and redesign Meowscles, but I'm surprised that the original crew that were designing the figures didn't make Meowscles bigger. He's a little underwhelming size-wise, trying to straighten up his leg there. But I think that's about it for Meowscles. Let's move on. Next we have Eevee here, the Syndicate, I'm going to mess this up, Couture. I think it's a French word, Couture. But yeah, she's really interesting. I'm not a huge fan of the face. I think the makeup is a little bright. I'll throw up a game image over here on the right side. I think the face, I don't know, the face just doesn't quite capture her for some reason, and I'm not sure what I would recommend to make it any better. I don't know, the face is just a little bit cartoony. I'm not quite sure. Maybe it's too big on the head. I don't really know. This is a very slender figure, so you want to be careful if you ever get your hands on this. I almost feel like it's going to break sometimes on me as I try to move the arm up. Luckily, the hinges are really pretty good on this figure, but you always stand this chance when something is too thin that it might break. The wrists feel pretty good, but the legs are very slender, and let's see here. Let me grab a sledge here for a second. Let's stand them up next to each other. One thing about the characters in-game are the male and females are, all the characters are just about the same height. But Jazwares is still making females just a little bit shorter than the males, it looks like. And I think if they were to be able to make them a little bit taller, then maybe the slenderness wouldn't be as big of a deal. All the limbs, arms and legs could be maybe just a little bit thicker. I don't know, I'm not into figure design as I've mentioned in the past. I like the figure, I think it's pretty cool. I don't know if this is the most desirable of the styles. Now, I did notice that the back bling does peg in a little bit tight. You have to really push it in there. It's a little disappointing that these guns don't slide out like they've made with some other accessories. That would have been pretty cool. So, as for range of motion, well, I mean, look at this skirt on her. I mean, that's her splits right there. And if you want her to sit, that's her sit right there. So, it's a medium rubber. It's not like super soft. I mean, it's kind of soft, but not super soft. I'm not sure if you could take this off. I know that she's got what I've called the Fortnite twist up there at the upper legs, but one of the problems is it's working a little bit better now, but after I pulled it out of the box, the legs actually fell off when I tried doing the twist. So I don't know if it's because they're that tight. Actually, yeah, that one's not twisting at all. I actually thought I broke the figure while I was taking it out. It looks like there might be a rotation, there we go, a rotation below this skirt, but the skirt makes it very difficult to rotate. I'd be kind of curious if the skirt even comes off. I'll have to do that off camera and see, because I don't want to break on camera. She's got a really good torso movement though, back and forth, front to back. I think that works out pretty well. As I mentioned earlier, it is a little bit difficult for the standing because of, I would say, the slenderness of the legs and the little bit of heels that she's got. And if you've been noticing it all, this left foot keeps like wanting to twist really easy. So unless you get things just right, you've got to really work on getting her just right. The balance and everything, it's difficult to get her to stand, and she does have some holes, so if you have an older figure stand, it might be worth trying to figure out or see if she'll actually fit on that. There's her number 316 on the bottom. But yeah, the feet are a little bit difficult to get in the right position. And Eevee's kind of, I'm not going to say she's one of my favorite characters, but she's kind of up there as a good character. And I really like the game version. You know, I don't know, maybe the original style was not as fancy, or maybe it's not as catching enough for a lot of people. But I think the original style would be pretty cool. All right, let's get on and check out the next one. So here is Sludge, and he's still wearing the alerted back bling, even if you can barely see it. I'm going to say it again, I really like these. I like these so much. I think it's so much fun, and I've got a bunch of these so I could put on different characters, because these were available previously in the Build-A-Figure chests. And so when they were really cheap on Amazon, I loaded up on a bunch of these things, like $3 or $4 for the whole chest of characters, if I remember right. And yeah, I got a bunch of these. These are so much fun. You've got his tactical assault rifle there. Now, for any of you who have watched the channel long enough, I've mentioned a few times, I don't know, maybe it doesn't matter, maybe I haven't said it enough, I really like the Grotto henchman. He's like my favorite of all the henchmen. So if I remember correctly, Sledge was in the game as a character from chapter 1, I think, correct me if I'm wrong. And so Grotto henchman was added as a style for Sledge later. And so this was actually not the original character. This was the original character. Grotto henchman was just an add-on. So, you know, that's why Sledge is cool, in that he's the original. He's the OG of that skin. But we don't get his back bling. We don't get his pickaxe. The articulation for this figure is exactly the same as that Grotto henchman. If you want him to do the splits, check that out. If you want him to sit, he can do it. And he can wiggle and twist at the torso. He can rotate there at the waist. He's got the thigh rotation. He can double pin at the knee like nobody. Well, he's someone else has done it better, but his arms don't go straight down, but they kind of have this kind of outlook, and you can bend the elbows in just a little bit if you want. Everything seems to work pretty good. Now, he is kind of tight up around the neck. That's about his rotation, back and forth. Just look left, look right. That's perfect. That's what we all do. Who turns our head all the way around? He can't seem to move his head back and forth, like nodded up and down at all. There's this big chunk here that's in the way. Well, I mean, that's kind of how the character looks. So otherwise, I think this is a pretty neat character. I think it's a pretty neat figure. And even though it sounded like I might have been complaining earlier that they should have put an IO guard in the set instead of him, I'm actually glad they have him in the set. And if they have actually released a set so everyone gets it, that's just one more character from Fortnite out of the thousands. Were we up to like 1,800 skins or something, or 2,000 skins in game? We're at least 300 and some closer. I've dreamt that Jazwares would somehow get almost all the skins out. You know, just pump those suckers out before the line ended, because the game's going to go on for years. The game will always, for sure, go on beyond the action figures, I'm sure. And so we'll never get them all. But good golly, if more we can get, the absolute better, I think, just to get all these characters out. And I'm okay with the repaints because, well, Fortnite lends itself to repaints. Let's move on. And Arctic Tac Gunner, he kind of stands a little bit odd. I don't know why, it's just, that's how I get him to stand. He's like this big, bulky character. So this is the white and gray version, as if he was in the snow. So yeah, we've had Gunner twice before. We had the first limited edition Gunner that popped up, and I mean, well, I haven't said, but extremely, and I mean extremely rare, popped up in a, was it last fall, like fall of 2023 or spring of 2024? I can't remember now exactly when those figures showed up. But he was out there in limited, very limited quantities. It was really, truly a limited figure. It was very difficult for people to find. But this was the silver, black, and gray version. And then not too long ago, the Jazwares Vault finally opened, and we got Tempest Gunner. So there's actually been 3 Gunners made at this point. Now, what's funny is I can't get this head to remove. These heads remove just fine, but it's almost like, so this one didn't come with an extra head. These two came with a head and the mask, but this one didn't. And I'm wondering if they glued it in there, because let's scoot these guys off to the side. Like, you can pop the head off there and we'll leave them headless. You can pop the head off there, no problem. Take off suspected. I love these back blings. You can't just pop this one off. It's not coming off. So I think this one's glued, which is really, that's incredibly disappointing that they would do that. I know the figure in the package doesn't come with a replaceable head, but come on, we have 2 heads here. Why not leave that feature? We could just put one of these heads on it. I mean, that's really weird. Unless, one theory is they had prepared the feature, but they weren't ready to implement it yet. And so they glued this one in because maybe this was supposed to come out before these two? I don't know. And so maybe that feature wasn't made, or maybe, and I'm making excuses, I'm guessing here, I'm just thinking out loud, maybe they didn't want to include that feature with this squad mode, thinking that maybe it would cheapen out, one, a limited edition figure, or two, a special Jazwares Vault set. It's possible that maybe they thought that having the feature in a squad mode would cheapen it, and so they didn't want to include that. Either way, I'd much rather they would have included it, because it, like, you know, the playability is there. You know that ability is there. And I might actually be tempted to, I don't know if I want to be tempted to try to yank that thing out somehow so we can have it swappable. But it's like, come on, why did you reduce the playability? Why did you reduce the features just because of that? So I don't know. It could be maybe it wasn't ready, or maybe they reduced the features to make these more special. I don't know. That's the extent of my guessing at this point. Let's look here at the figure. So we've definitely seen this figure before. I've reviewed him 2 different times. He comes with a pretty cool looking tactical shotgun. I like the looks of this. I think the green and the silvers are pretty neat. If you know what the wrap is, let me know in the comments below. And of course, there is the suspected. I love the question mark. I have a bunch of these, and it's fun just to put them over the figure and take pictures and so forth. I like that. So, except for that, he does have 2 secret accessories that we've discussed in the past. If you remember, the gun comes out of the holster. Maybe. There we go. This gun comes out of the holster, which is a cool little secret accessory, and the knife comes out of the sheath on his back. That's pretty cool too. I like when these little accessories will pop out. I know that hasn't always been the case, so when it's a surprise, and an exciting surprise when you discover that it does. Just disappointed about that neck. This figure is one of the first ones to have these butterfly joints, and they rotate a little bit. They're not like crazy good, but you know what, for a 4-inch figure, this is pretty awesome that they even tried, or they're able to do that. I mean, let's see here. This is the range of motion, if we can see. I mean, there's a little range. I mean, it will do a little something, and for being such a bulky figure, that's kind of cool. So, being a bulky figure, though, he does not have anywhere near 90-degree hinge at the elbow. He can lift his arms up about that high because of the armor on his shoulders. That's about it. So he's pretty limited in the arm department. He does not rotate at the waist, but he can do that back and forth. He can do that side to side, kind of. Splits, sits, and I forgot, didn't I have a third one? Splits, sits, and something else. Double pin knee, and he's got hinge and pivot down here, and I haven't gone through and tested all of them, but this guy leans back that far. And so I'm showing you the one I've already shown before. That's funny. But anyway, so actually, we've actually seen 3 of these figures before. Sledge was just the Grotto henchman, and Meowscles was the Agent Meowscles. The only really truly new figure base here is Eevee. So anyway, that is the Arctic Tac Gunner, and I think that's all to show you with this figure. Oh, no. There's one more thing. I brought in the other harvesting tools because for some reason they didn't include the harvesting tools with this figure or the back bling. So I was wondering if there's any chance that these fit any better, because these don't fit on any other Gunner figure. And I'm guessing it's the exact same mold and that we shouldn't expect anything, but I don't know. I'm always hoping. I'm honestly not exactly sure how they fit on anyway. So I don't think they're ever going to fit on the left hand because the knuckle is so big. The knuckle is much smaller on this right side, and it kind of tucks in a little bit. If the thumb wasn't in the way, the thumb is what seems to be the problem with these figures. If you could get the thumb tucked in there, then it would slide right on the hand. But the thumb, gets in the way, if you can see that there. Otherwise, you know, these would be so cool. And they just made the knuckle on this left side too big, and that's really disappointing that they went to such expense to make such a cool little set of pickaxes, and you can't actually fully use them. So, let's move on. And here's a final look at the Syndicate versus the IO squad mode set. Poor Meowscles over here, he just can't stand properly. Apparently, while in the package, posed in such a way for so long, I can't get his feet flat. They're both bent like the opposite way, kind of sideways a little bit, if you can see that. So I'm gonna have to maybe try and take some heat to this figure and see if it'll straighten him out. The rest of them seem to be standing just fine, and that could be a little bit of the problem with her feet as well. While I'm having difficulties getting her to stand, she was kind of posed in a little bit of an odd way. But I think overall, I think these are pretty neat looking figures. I'm really happy to have an Eevee, even if it's not my perfectly desired Eevee. It's still cool to get her. I'm really happy that, well, I mean, it doesn't really matter. We had, if you were lucky to find Meowscles, default Meowscles last fall, then you have this figure. So it doesn't really matter if this is just a repack at this point. So, I mean, it's still kind of cool to see him if you missed him, but you know, what am I saying? This isn't even out. I talk sometimes like this, these unreleased things are out because I want them to be. And I'm so on Gunner. I don't like the not having the ability to swap out the head. And it's an okay. I much prefer this guy right here, the limited edition one. I think the colors are much better. And again, Sledge is kind of just a mediocre. It's not anything that's really exciting or jumps out to me. I guess I much prefer like the other versions of like all of them, except Meowscles, who you could have gotten before. I don't know what to say. I still hope the set comes out, and if you want these figures, if you like these characters and these versions, then that's awesome for you. I guess overall, to me, it's kind of like just a medium set. Maybe that's why it hasn't released. Maybe someone up the chain's like, you know what, this is not very exciting. Let's find a way of releasing Eevee somehow again, and we're just going to scrap it. I don't know what's going on. I hope it comes out for everyone who wants these characters or these figures. That's all I've got to say. Thank you for stopping by and watching. I will see you next time.